Okay, we're doing part 2 of the Weaver's Journey. We are talking about a recap of the last 2 weeks. Before I get started, I just want to say if you don't know who the Divine Mother is, the Lady of the Bones, if you don't understand that concept, there is a playlist on my YouTube. It's called Lady of the Bones. It has a bunch of different videos talking about her and her different aspects and who she is, to me, in very, very short order. The Divine Mother is like the core, the heart of all goddess energy, all feminine divine energy. She is the mother, she is the well, she is death and rebirth. She is these literal things. She is connected to all of them. So our name for her can be very different. What aspect of her we are connecting with, what face we are connecting with, in order to, move in our own ways. So, just something to think about. You might want to go and listen to those if you don't know about her, just to get a good idea of what we're talking about, because she's like the heart of all of them. She's the core pattern that they all sit within. So, like I said, as far as tools and stuff, every week starts with an illumination from her book, The Divine Mother, Lady of the Bones. That illumination kind of gives us a structure or foundation, a core energy to think about as I move through each day and as I am getting different messages, thinking back to that core. So, week 1, we started with her first illumination. We're going through all 26. Week 1 was her first one. And it's really talking about our choosing. So, our choosing her. It doesn't really matter if we choose her or not from her perspective. We're all connected, and we're all connected to her automatically. I mean, she is the literal beginning and end of everything. So, in that, we are already connected. Our bond to her and what we choose, choosing to go deeper with her, choosing to learn from her, choosing to allow her to guide us. It's not about her, it's about us. It's about what we gain from that and transform from that, and the movement of our own growth. That's really the choice. Sure, we are feeding her energy through that. Yes, we are strengthening our bond and going deeper. And the more our bond gets strengthened, the deeper we go, the more connection we have, the more those messages, that knowing between us flows, the understandings and the information we get. But really, the choice is about us. We're choosing to connect and do this for us, for our growth, to have that kind of bond, to have that kind of connection, to get that kind of information. So in week 1, as I was going through, immediately, one of the first things was about exchange. So all through my practice with deities, over a decade, exchange has been very specific in this back and forth, I give, they give, I give, they give. And the giving looks like this for me. They give me a lesson, or they give me information. They give me illumination of something. And then my exchange in this, one, I'm giving them energy, time, and presence. So that's feeding them. But at the same time, I have to do the work. I have to go through that. I have to understand it. I have to experiment with it and find out how this works for me. What does this mean for me? How do I grow with this? How is this helping my own transformations? But the exchange itself was very much give and take. And that's kind of how I saw it and perceived it, was this give and take, back and forth. And I still think when we are first building bond, that this is the right way to go, because especially when we're dealing with deities, when we're dealing with spirits, when we're dealing with unseen, we have so much societal conditioning that it isn't real. We need to ignore it, blah, blah, blah. So, skeptical mind needed, I needed that kind of perspective and the back and forth to build trust, to believe that it was real, to see that in action, and to see the results of that. That's how I built trust. For me, belief, faith, these are all based in experience. You don't have true belief of something unless you have experienced it. And I'm not talking about experience that I can prove to other people and all that. I am talking about the experience that proves to me. Experience deeply felt and results that are real and tangible for me. And from belief builds faith. Anything that starts as, you believe just to believe, to me, that's not real faith. It's not real belief. And so it's not real for me. This aspect of exchange made it very real for me. It created belief and then created faith in my divine. So in this first lesson was a change in perspective of exchange. It's not a movement of creation. It's a movement of depth. I already have the bond. I built the bond over years and years of work. That trust is there, that belief is there, that faith is there, that love is there, the devotion is there. But there's a deeper aspect of exchange. Once we have that trust, once I had that belief, exchange is different. It's not about, what I give, what she gives in from a perspective of tangible. It's kind of hard to explain, of result based kind of things. What do I get from her? What does she get from me? This new exchange and a way of looking at the exchange at this point in my relationship with her, this is about companionship, love, and hope. These are the three key words that she gave for this. And it made me reflect of, my relationship with my husband, because I have that kind of exchange with him. It isn't about what he can do for me or what I can do for him. We just love each other's company. We're best friends. We just want that companionship, that togetherness, and being in space together. And whether even if we're doing separate things, it's just being in that space together, having our energies mingling and intertwining, and supporting each other and being there and creating hope for each other, even in the really, really dark and crappy times, because we're together, because it's companionship, because we have that deep love, we give each other hope. The world's falling apart, okay, but we're okay, and we're here, and we'll make it through. We'll figure out a way. It's that kind of a movement. So that was lesson number 1, a change in perspective of exchange. No longer this needing proof, no longer needing to build trust, to build belief, to build faith, to build bond, and all that. This is about just living in the bond, being part of it every single day and feeling it all the time, and just wanting to be in that energy, have that connection, the companionship, love, and hope. The next lesson was a deconstruction. And I am not too proud to say that it had me in tears. I was in tears, and it was a really profound morning with this. So she was talking about my worth just as me. And the majority of my life, I'm not counting my relationship with my husband, but the majority of my life has always been, what others could get from me, what I could give to others. And it was that kind of exchange, where I give, I give, I give, and that's what, draws people in. That's what, has people around me. It's what builds bond. It's what connects. It's how the relationship goes. Unfortunately, for a very, very long time, I gave everything. I gave everything. And if I had it, I'd give it. And it wasn't reciprocal exchange, though. And in our society, it's about what can we get from somebody else? What can they give us? What hole can they fill? What part of our life can they contribute to? And we really are taught this, and it's really deep conditioning. And there's a lot of detail to that, and we're not going to be able to get into it right now in this because this is recap. But it really touches on that, not seeing myself worthy as just me. Just me being present, just me being there is enough. I always had to be giving, because if I wasn't giving, then people weren't happy, or they weren't getting the exchange they wanted, or I don't know. I'm not even going to guess to others. But that really hit hard, because I saw all the reflections of that, and how much I gave of myself, of my body, of my skills, of my possessions, everything. And it was always this kind of undertone of, we give, and that's what makes people like us. We give, and that's what keeps people around. Again, super deep conditioning, and something that a lot of people struggle with and deal with. And her thing, was, you got to stop. You've got to just sit in your own worth. You just being present, you just being there, you being in bond and relationship is enough. You don't have to keep giving in order to get people to want to be around you, to want them to like you, to, whatever. Like I said, it's kind of a hard concept, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that will understand exactly what I am saying. Another part of the illumination is talking about the three worlds that we live in. The living bond and being in reflection of all three. So there is the natural world, nature, her world that she created. Society, the world humans create on top of her world. And then our internal world. And when we are not completely in balance and in bond and living ourselves, our true authentic selves, in all three of those worlds at all times, then we create imbalances. We create damage, and that has different outward effects, both on us as our health, our mental state, our self as a person, but also outwardly. It ripples outward, and it can damage relationships. It can damage all kinds of things, but it can also do really great things when we are in that alignment and balance, and living in those three worlds as one whole person. And the very last part of that week was a dream. And there was this really big hill that had a bunch of pine trees on it, and this big field, and then it goes out to a road. And there was a grizzly bear. I was in like the field area. There was a grizzly bear just charging down the side of the mountain at me. And, my first instinct, run. And so I ran and got onto the road and started running. And then like just a couple of, it felt like seconds, but I'm sure, who knows, dreams. Anyway, I immediately stopped, and I was like, this is wrong. I need to stop. I need to turn. I need to face this. And I need to be as big as I can possibly be, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I turned around, And I started making these weird growling noises. I was thinking I was trying to scream, and it was coming out as this weird growling noise. And then it almost turned howly. And the bear had stopped, and it stood up on its hind legs on the road, maybe 100 feet from me or whatever. And it was baring its teeth and roaring back. And then all of a sudden, there were two other wolves next to me, and they started howling. And it was weird because at first they just seemed like really, really hairy, almost couldn't describe the face, but it didn't look wolf shaped. It looked more human shaped, but it wasn't human. There was no real definition at all until they started howling, and then their necks stretched up and their heads came out, and you could see them. And we were all just howling at it, and it ran away. And to me, this was one of those tests. And it was really talking about standing together, standing in pack. And this has lots of different connotations. It talks to me about my soul coven. It talks to me about Adeliza, the Divine Mother, and myself on this journey. And it talks to me about my coven and the temple and the people within that, and all of us standing together, working together, helping each other. And it's interesting because I do take pause. There have been a couple of times where I have gone through a test. My divine has put me through a test like this. And it's always a grizzly bear, which is weird because I don't have a fear of grizzly bears. I mean, I have a healthy understanding of grizzly bear, and I don't want to meet one and all this in the wild and these kinds of things. But I don't have like this fear of them. And I don't live in an area where I would ever encounter one. It's just strange that it's always a grizzly bear. There's something to that, but I'm not there yet. So at the end of week 1, it was all about changing the idea of exchange and what it means to be in relationship, what it means to be in bond. Instead of what can I give, what can I offer, what do I have that somebody else wants. It's about just being me, that me alone is worthy enough, that bond isn't based on what I can give as far as, tangible things to give somebody else to make their life better, to make them happy or whatever. It is about being in that bond together, that we are enough just as us, and being in that and living in that and moving in that. And words cannot really describe the feelings or the impact of that, but it has impacted me deeply and has me constantly reflecting back on this idea and moving into this way of being. Week 2 was really focused on faith. And like I said before in part 1, for me, experience, consistent results, tangible results, this builds my belief. All my belief builds my faith. It builds my trust. It builds my faith. It builds, this is real. I am experiencing this, and this is real. And I have faith that it's real, and it holds all of this transformation, this movement, this growth, this beauty, this bond, this love. And so for me, that's how I view belief and faith. So faith is all of the steps that have gotten me here. And really, I think it's a movement of deepening faith, of moving in faith. It started off, what am I doing with my faith? What are my actions? What am I doing? And like I said, each of her prayers holds lessons and directions, states of being, how to be, what to incorporate, how to strengthen ourselves, and how to move and be in that bond and presence. Prayer feeds our bond through presence and intention, but it also is ingraining those lessons into me, and it's rewiring my brain. It is creating new pathways, healing old wounds as I do this. Very science-minded, very biologically minded, especially when it comes to the mind. I was a CCRN, and I specialized in neurology and cardiology, and did a lot of work in neurology and understanding the brain and how it works and how we rewire. And I go in depth in my Death Emissary courses on this, because that's what a lot of the first part of the course is rewiring our brains in order to, be in harmony with soul, to gain soul senses, your psychic senses, to build those up, to, be able to talk to spirits, to be able to talk with the unseen and move with the unseen and get information. This is all about needing to rewire and create new pathways in the brain, because our society has done so much conditioning to cut us off from that. Anyway, whole other thing. But, these prayers aren't just prayers to, give devotion or show devotion or, strengthen bond at this point. They were in the beginning. This is a deeper movement of that. It's really integrating and ingraining those lessons and seeing them in new ways and creating new pathways in the brain and healing. And so, where is my faith rooted in this journey? How am I manifesting in my life and this journey from my rooted faith? These are the questions that are coming up. These are the things that I explored in week 2, and I'm sure I'm going to be exploring more as we go, because each one of these weeks seems to be building on each other. It's a movement, and not everything's going to happen instantaneously, but they're showing me what's happening. They're giving me the direction. They're showing me the path in that movement. And that's where the idea of sharing this journey as I go through it, what I'm discovering, what I'm growing through it. There is a third reason for this. Part of it's to, show other people, what this is actually like. The ups and downs, the good, the bad, the awe moments, and the chaos and confusion and our breakdown moments in these journeys, to show the reality of it, to help people. It's also, for me, it's what I'm already doing. And so I want to show something that I am doing in real time, and, not have to create more or something else that's separate from the path that I'm walking right now. I just want to walk my path and share that, where I'm at and what I'm doing. But lastly, it brings her more to living life. And I know that sounds weird, but the more that I talk about her and the more that I share my experiences, my love, my, all of these things, this beauty and this bond, not only does it, keep us in that compassion, love, and hope, and that just wanting to be in bond with her aspect, but it brings it to life when I'm sharing it publicly like this. It brings her into the world more. In my opinion, whether anybody listens to it or not really doesn't matter. It brings her into the world more. It solidifies her more in our physical world, in this life, in all its aspects, not just her world, but society's world, my inner world. And so, yeah, I'm really, really loving that. When we're talking about faith, when I'm talking about faith and stuff, the 3 words that I was given for this, and I'm interested to see if we're going to keep getting words like this, little things, but it's open, observant, and patient. Being open in my mind, in my heart, to just receive. Be observant. Listen for all the messages and be in the space of openness to receive. And then presence. being present in the moment, at the moment, not this constant thinking ahead and what needs to be done next and what do I have to do and what's happening tomorrow and next week and oh my gosh, all this stuff going on in the world, what's coming down the pipeline, and a lot of assumption. We're making a lot of assumptions and trying to piece things together for future things. And right now, for me, presence, being present in the moment and being present in presence with her. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I am so far and why this was so impactful and why I want to share, because this has been amazing. I wish I would have started sharing from the beginning, because trying to recap, you're only getting like surface level kind of stuff, but I'm trying, and hopefully by doing it the daily and going every single day and talking about it as it's coming and stuff, you'll see the depth, you'll see more movement in that. And yeah. Okay, so I'm going to stop rambling. Tomorrow's Sunday. Tomorrow we start a new week. So it goes from Sunday through Friday. Friday I do a lot of my reflective work and all that. Saturday is kind of my rest day, so it'll probably be, posting Friday, Saturday, and then a new post on Sunday on YouTube, and then like I said on TikTok it'll be every day throughout the days. And then I'll do compilations for those that only use YouTube and don't want to go over to TikTok, so you can see what that day was and the reflection video and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited to share this journey with you and to see what happens. I'm so excited to see where we go next. Have a great one.